Okay, so let's talk about 2025. Malaysia is taking the lead as the chair of ASEAN. And, this isn't just some regular boring handover. Nope. This is happening at a really critical time for us here in Southeast Asia. We're facing some huge challenges, but also some massive opportunities. So the real question is, right, can Malaysia actually guide this huge ship, this ASEAN bloc, through what looks like some pretty stormy seas? All right, let's get into it. So, you see this quote here? It basically says what we're all feeling. The whole world is kind of in flux, right? Supply chains are moving around, big countries are competing, and guess who everyone's looking at? Us, ASEAN. This report from Standard Chartered just puts it in black and white. Big global companies are really, really interested in our region. We're not just a bunch of countries on a map anymore, La. We're becoming a real player on the world stage.
And just to show you what's on the line, look at this number. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. 2.6 trillion ringgit. That was just Malaysia's total trade in 2023. It's a huge figure, and it shows you just how connected our economy is, not just to the world, but especially to our ASEAN neighbors. So when we're talking about all this high-level stuff, regional stability, economic plans, it all boils down to this: real money, real jobs, things that affect every single one of us.
Okay, Section 1, a region at a crossroads. Look, there's no question that ASEAN is an economic powerhouse. But, and this is a big but, all that amazing promise is hitting a very tough reality. We're literally at a crossroads, getting pulled left and right by giant world powers, and also by our own internal issues. It's a real tug of war. So check this out. On one side, you got the incredible promise of ASEAN, right? We're this rising economic giant, a huge market with over 600 million people, and the goal is always more unity. But then there's the reality. It's way more complicated. You have the whole US-China thing putting us smack in the middle. And then we have our own squabbles, disagreements over borders and stuff that make it really hard to act as one solid team. All right, on to Section 2, Malaysia's big plan. So given this really complicated situation, what's the plan, La? Well, Malaysia isn't just winging it. There's actually a very clear vision for the chairmanship, and it's built on a core idea and some pretty big, ambitious goals. So the core idea guiding Malaysia's leadership is this concept called Madani. The easiest way to think about it is like a set of values, a compass for how we should lead. It's really about building a future that's not just rich and innovative, but also fair, sustainable, and built on compassion. Basically, making sure that as the whole region grows, we do it in a good way, with respect and trust. So what does that actually mean in practice? Well, here are the main goals. First, something called ASEAN Centrality, which basically means making sure that we, ASEAN, are the ones in charge in our own region. Simple as that. Second, and this is a big one, boosting the economy. There's a huge focus on the digital economy with this thing called DEFA, that's the Digital Economy Framework Agreement, and also on green energy. Third, inclusivity, making sure nobody gets left behind. And finally, locking in the Vision 2045, which is the big 20-year plan for where we're all headed.
So, that's the game plan Malaysia is bringing to the table. Pretty clear, right?
Hey, if this breakdown is giving you a clearer picture, do me a quick favor and hit that like and subscribe button. That way, you'll always stay ahead on Malaysia's biggest stories. Don't miss out. Okay, Section 3, navigating dangerous waters. Look, having a great plan is nice, but making it happen is the hard part. Now we've got to look at the huge obstacles Malaysia has to face as the ASEAN chair. And trust me, these are some seriously tricky issues. First up, the big one, the South China Sea. Man, this is a tough balancing act. On one hand, Malaysia has to stand firm and protect our own waters, our own interests, but at the same time, as the ASEAN chair, we have to bring everyone else together to agree on a plan with China. It's kind of like trying to play in the game and be the referee at the same time. Really, really tricky. And then, of course, there's the crisis in Myanmar that just won't go away. So ASEAN created this 5-point consensus. Stop the violence, get everyone talking, send aid, all good things. But here's the problem. The military leadership in Myanmar has pretty much just ignored it. So this has turned into a huge test for ASEAN's reputation. And now Malaysia has to step right into the middle of this diplomatic minefield. Now, this is really interesting. It shows that the problems aren't just these big geopolitical things. This chart actually shows what businesses inside ASEAN are complaining about. And look at the top issues. removal of non-tariff barriers, and harmonization of standards. What that really means is that it's still too complicated and messy to trade between our own countries. So it's not just about the big guys outside. We've got to fix our own internal plumbing to make things work better. Let's move to Section 4, Forging a United Future. So, with all these massive challenges we just talked about, what's the actual game plan? How is Malaysia going to try and steer this ship, not just for 1 year, but towards a future where ASEAN is stronger and more united? Okay, a huge piece of the puzzle is finalizing this thing, the ASEAN Community Vision 2045. Now, this isn't just some fancy slogan. Think of it as a detailed 20-year roadmap for the entire region. It's about figuring out how we can handle future crises better, how we can make our economies more modern and innovative, and how we can make sure it all benefits the ordinary person. And this table, this shows you one of the biggest challenges to that future vision. Remember we talked about DEFA, that big plan for a digital economy? Well, look at the numbers here. You can see there's a huge gap between countries. You've got places like Malaysia and Singapore scoring really high on things like data protection, but then other countries are way, way behind. You can't have a shared digital future if half the team isn't ready to play. Closing this gap is absolutely critical. And it's not just about looking inward. To make ASEAN stronger, Malaysia's also looking to build new friendships. One really interesting idea is to have a big summit with ASEAN, the countries in the Gulf, the GCC, and China. It's all about creating new economic partnerships and getting developing regions to work more closely together. It's basically us helping each other grow.
So yeah, the ambition is huge, from a 20-year vision to building brand new global partnerships.
Want to keep making sense of Malaysia's role on the world stage? Join our community for clarity, not confusion. Go on, tap that like button and hit subscribe. Let's figure this all out together. All right, final section. What's at stake for all of us? We've talked about all this high-level stuff, geopolitics, economic plans, but let's bring it back down to earth. Why should you and I actually care about any of this? What does it really mean for our daily lives? Well, it really boils down to 4 simple things. First, your wallet, plain and simple. When we work better with our neighbors, it can mean more business, more investment, and yeah, more jobs. Second, our security. A peaceful and stable region is a safe region for all of us. Third, our voice in the world. When we speak together as ASEAN, the world listens. Malaysia is much stronger as part of a team. And finally, our shared future. Big problems like climate change or the digital revolution, no single country can solve them alone. We have to work together. And you know, this quote here really sums it up perfectly. You can have all the big plans and fancy speeches in the world, but what really matters are the results. It's about what actually gets done. This is a year where talk is cheap and action is everything. So that brings us to the final massive question for 2025. Will Malaysia's leadership be the spark that creates a stronger, more united ASEAN? Or will all the pressure from inside and out be too much? Will ASEAN struggle to even stay relevant in a world run by giants? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Thanks so much for tuning in.